Commissioner Hill, there are no changes to the agenda.
Perfect. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I can second. Sorry, second.
Yeah, you two are going to have to do
Sorry.
a lot of work tonight. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve items A through J as presented in the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Jeff, please poll the board.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye. All right, on to the regular agenda. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak who is not scheduled to speak later? Anybody? Seeing and hearing none. We'll move on to the director's report. That's you.
That's me. Good evening, Commissioners. So we just have a couple items just to provide some updates on. The first one is the Yunker Farm Dog Park redesign survey is closing tomorrow, and we've had really good response so far. We have a total of 175 responses. The marketing department will be holding some in-person engagement sessions to continue to gather input. Those sessions will be held on Thursday, February 15th from 3:30 to 6 at the Natural Pet Center in South Fargo. And then the second one is going to be held on Sunday, February 17th from 10 to 1 at Yunker Farm. And then we'll continue to provide updates on the Facebook page. Just a quick update on Giving Hearts Day. We had really good results with both the Park District Foundation and also Valley Senior Services. At Valley Senior Services, we raised $75,921. This was ahead of the goal that was set by the executive director at Valley Senior Services, and was an additional $20,000 over what was raised last year. So really pleased with the results. The number of individual donors was down, but the overall donation amounts trended higher. And then the foundation, I think we provided an update in the weekly overview last week, but also was really pleased with the results and brought in $293,370 in total. And then just a quick update on our outdoor rinks. You know, this definitely hasn't been a great season for skating and hockey outdoors. I mean, the weather's been beautiful, but certainly not for ice. So all of the 15 outdoor rink locations, with the exception of Broadway Square, have been closed since the 29th of January. And it was determined just due to the weather, you know, now higher sun angle, and the extended forecast, that we really aren't going to be able to reopen any of those rinks this season. So unfortunately, a short season, but the Broadway Square rink is still open, and we'll keep it open as long as we're able.
So how many days total did we get with the rinks open? Like in the teens?
Yeah, I think it was just over 2 weeks. And so it was, again, you know, hard for our skating and winter sports and winter activities, but hard to complain about the weather we've had as well.
Fair.
Yeah, I think pond hockey is the biggest crushing blow.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of disappointed teams. Just a quick update on the Sports Center. So at the end of this week, we are going to officially begin taking requests from rentals from our user groups. We also have our community relations team that has put together a media plan for just trying to promote some stories to the different media outlets that is really going to ramp up here in the beginning of March. But even without that promotion, we've been starting to receive just a lot more requests. I think there's a lot more interest in tours out at the facility. I know Kaylee and Craig have been quite busy just giving tours to different groups. We've been giving some tours to user groups, some different community partners, just suppliers that will be working out at the Sports Center. And then continuing to provide some of the tours for our local legislators. And we'll provide another one this coming Friday at 1:30. So just excited about that. You know, we've just been receiving really positive feedback with everyone that has gone through the facility. So I think just the excitement is just continuing to grow. And then the last one is just staff presented the preliminary plan to revitalize Rabanus Park to the North Dakota Parks and Recreation Department late last week. And they accepted our preliminary project proposal. And this was really the first step in the process and will sponsor the project moving forward with the grant application to the National Park Service. A pre-award inspection has been completed and submitted to the North Dakota Parks and Recreation Department. If the funding is awarded, the project would be constructed in 2026.
And just to clarify, we need the state agency to sort of take this on, correct? Or,
Correct. The state has to essentially sponsor any agency that applies for this grant. It's the first time North Dakota has been included in this grant. So we're excited. The state group that we're working with is just ecstatic. They're very excited that we're willing to apply for this and going to do as much as they can on their end to help propel us moving forward here. So a lot of work. This is just the first step. But a lot of work yet to be done, but we're going to do it.
Awesome. Sounds great.
And those are all the updates for tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Unless
All
you have
right.
any questions.
Any questions? All right. Moving on, we have Kara Baith Dukart from the Kiwanis Club to provide a presentation for us tonight. Welcome. And Tyler Kirchner, also in
In
support.
support, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much for welcoming the Kiwanis Club of Fargo, along with, thank you so much for being here for support, to give a status update on the Green Blue Space Park project that Fargo Park District has been such a great support for us on this. We're excited to give you the status update. What is Kiwanis? I want to share with you a little bit about our service club here in Fargo. Hopefully, many of you were able to come to our Kiwanis Pancake Carnival. I think I see a commissioner up here who is delivering many pancakes to lots of people today. Him and his wife were a great support, so thanks for doing that. What is Kiwanis? Kiwanis is a worldwide service organization devoted to the principle of service. Our membership spans the globe with more than 300,000 members, more than 8,000 clubs in 80 countries, giving over 100 million and 7 million volunteer hours for community service each year. Our club here in Fargo, we were chartered in November of 1920. In November, we'll be 104 years old. So we're pretty proud of that. We're generous with our time. We're generous and creative with our ideas. We're passionate about making a difference. We have a ton of fun along the way. That's what we love to do. Our club is known for our legendary, as I said, this is big, world record-breaking Fargo Kiwanis Pancake Carnival. I think one year we made 44,000 pancakes. So that's kind of what we're known for. What we're really known for is how many people eat pancakes and have that great sitting down at the table with so many people together, nearly 400 volunteers working together. How many people under one roof in a Fargo dome, congregating, having conversation together. We love that. We really believe by working together, members achieve what one person cannot accomplish alone. So what's our mission? Volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child, one community at a time. Our vision is to be a positive influence for communities worldwide so that one day all children will wake up in a community that believe in them, nurture them, and provide them the support they need to thrive. We support all ages within our community for youth. We focus on youth from littles all the way to big. So our K kids are the tinies, the school kiddos. The builders are for those adolescents. And our club focuses on those key clubbers, the teens in high schools. Myself, I'm a co-advisor for Horace High. We have also sponsors at Davies. We have done at Oak Grove as well and South. Circle K clubs for university students. We do sponsor NDSU as well. Many of them volunteered at our carnival. We also do an action club for those adults living with disabilities. So when you give a child the chance to learn, experience, dream, grow, succeed, and thrive, we know that great things can happen. So getting to this now, we're focusing on mental health. Internationally with Kiwanis, it's been a big focus on mental wellness. And only 45.8% of adults in North Dakota who have been diagnosed with a mental illness receive any form of treatment from either the public system or private providers, and this is according to SAMHSA. The remaining 54.2% of those with a mental illness diagnosis receive no mental health treatment. When you look at an estimated 83% of those adults in North Dakota who have no diagnosis even, they could benefit from a primary prevention or an early intervention strategy. So when we look at the facts and some of the research that I was looking at, it's clear that green spaces offer benefits in terms of mental health and well-being. Thus, green spaces can function as an upstream preventative measure. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how these green spaces can be such a huge benefit to communities and how they can help our families and our youth and our kiddos and how we can help them thrive. Nature and happiness. We know that children who live in neighborhoods with more green space had a reduced risk of many of these psychiatric disorders. The schizophrenia, the mood disorders, the eating disorders. Those with the lowest levels of green space exposure during childhood, the risk of developing mental illness was 55% higher than those who grew up with abundant green space. It goes on and on. You can read them there. Project Vision. So this is where this comes to play. When I was the president of Kiwanis in 21 and 22, this is where it came up. Day to day, my full-time job focuses a lot on mental health. So of course, this is a passion of mine. So this vision of supporting a local community color space to support mental wellness is where this comes from. We want a destination. Fargo Kiwanis wants this destination or a retreat or a space in a park that would have a place or local natural art elements or something that would represent a place to pause and to be present, a place where families can go and get away from that busyness, get away from all that noise, right? Where they can have positive energy, balance, a place to have hope, pause for our community. But with our vision and with our values and our principles with Kiwanis, we want youth involvement. We want them to have education and development. We want them to know what service is, what's community service and a collaborative experience. And we want them to know how to make a legacy. How can they make their mark on something? So this is where this all comes into play. You guys happen to be working on something called a master plan at the time. This big thing that you guys were working on. And when we heard about this, we're like, oh, or I might have said, oh, that sounds like something we might have some interest in. So I talked to our Kiwanians and I'm like, you guys, we should look at this. So we wrote up a proposal. In February of 22, we submitted a proposal. And in the spring, we were invited to present that to the park board. So we presented this to you guys and we patiently waited and patiently waited and patiently waited. And then we were so surprised to have gotten Fargo Kiwanis' name in the master plan. And I think I did a little dance. I think I did. Because we were excited that it kind of perked your guys' interest in regards to how maybe a community service club could be a part of this. So really it was perfect timing. Our visions united. It was a shared vision. and our thoughts of having some sort of students involved and how they can make a long-lasting impact. We could have some exciting things happening. So that's how a beautiful hybrid of MSUM, NDSU landscape architect, along with Fargo Park District, which you guys have been awesome partners in embracing this, and our club came to be. So the pre-design phase is kind of the professional way, I guess, of saying this. I don't know. I think Dave Beets, and Dave Leaker was part of it in the beginning. Dave Beets and Carolyn Butane, myself, Brad Bachmeyers from MSUM, and then Matthew Kirkwood is a professor within the landscape at NDSU. Some of the things between 22 and presently were some of these events. We spent time monthly developing an RFP for the college students, okay, so they could get an idea of what we're looking for if we were to look at a space. I'm going to point out down here with this fancy pointer. This is the southeast corner of Island Park, more of a passive space. It would be to the north of the White House, Art House there, and then to the west of Prairie St. John's. So that wooded area there, I think they do a lot of cross-country skiing in that area, was kind of the ideal area that Fargo Parks was looking at. Carolyn and I went and spoke to each of these kiddos in the college area and kind of gave them an idea of what we were looking for. The design phase, we kind of are moving into. These kiddos looked at developing a design. They all submitted their designs. NDSU was able to put it into their curriculum. MSUM didn't quite do that, but their students were able to provide that knowledge of design to help them. So these two students on both sides of the rivers provided a collaboration, which was really, really nice to see. They met with, we continued to meet together with our Kiwanis Club, the Fargo Parks. We continue to meet with you guys to make sure the visions are together. We looked over all the 11 awesome designs, the conceptual designs that they provided. They were probably a bit more grand than what we had thought because they were a little more small, but we were able to take pieces out of there. Our focus is really looking at maybe contemplative spaces that are small or natural paths of some sort, but a project design on area of refuge, escape, center that may have an area to place some art of some sort. These are thoughts within their designs. Moving forward, we're at the part where this gentleman has come into play to help have that professional help guide us a bit, determine the direction, maybe the investment of the project is kind of where we're at right now. Work on a scale we know that we can handle because it's going to be a smaller scale project. Be purposeful and diligent with the materials that we know that we have. And then we want to be certain to keep it natural. Senses, we want to use the wind, we want to use all of our senses to be able to make it a natural area. As you can see down here, one of the students developed an area that from a bird's eye view, it's more of a reflective well-being. It shows the sign of a sunshine. Here, there's boulders that are come into play. So a lot of different areas here. They wanted to use some solar. The students were really focused on different ways of knowing the different seasons. How can this be a place of refuge that would draw people in winter and summer and autumn and, different ways like that. We want to make it, maybe it's in stages where students can be. So we have direction where we can still bring youth in and where they can leave a legacy for years to come and we can access their skills. So Fargo Kiwanis is committed to fundraising efforts to help bringing a lot of these students' visions to life while still keeping in the focus of Island Park and their master plan. What's the lasting benefits of this? Ongoing opportunities, supporting education with all of our academia students in our community, the valued vision of arts and landscape, the shared importance of our community service, the visual arts, the efforts of students being involved in a project like this, we find so much value in youth being a part of this. And we're growing leaders. They're understanding community service and giving back and leaving a mark in a community where they can come back and say, I was part of that. It's a refuge, a place to escape and find pause in a beautiful historic place in Fargo that we know Island Park is. It's a respectful place that we want to make sure we honor and respect, and a place of hope that radiates well-being, which we know our community deserves. So thank you. I want to open up to questions, and I also want you to add something. Anyway, come to our carnival next year too, okay? Any questions, guys?
Do you have an idea of the timeline we're on to start implementing? Is it going to be in stages, or what are you thinking?
Well, our current plan right now, Tyler and I were talking, is we would like to get together and really establish a design with the pieces that we have, because we need to.
So at this point, we're kind of at the scoping phase. Obviously, we've got 11 great designs. We've got a site that we kind of got to get all that information into and still have it be successful and within their vision. So putting together that solid scope, getting a timeline, getting finances are really kind of the three major hurdles that we have to develop here in the next, I'd say a couple months here before we'd like to come back and with a solid plan and a solid direction. But right now, as far as we wanted to give a nice update as to kind of where we come from the last time Kara was in here, and then just kind of where we're going to set that stage. So good question, more to come.
Mine is more organizational. How many Kiwanians? Thank you, Vicki. How many Kiwanians do we have in our community?
In our club, and right now, currently, I believe we're down to 3 clubs. It's either 3 or 4 that are still functioning in Fargo. In our club, we have about 95 members. We range between 90 and 100 members.
Okay.
Yep. And we're the largest club in Fargo, but right now I think we're at 3 clubs in Fargo.
3 clubs in Fargo,
Yep.
and then West Fargo and Moorhead, or not so much?
Moorhead, there were 2 clubs. I think one did dismantle. So yeah.
And it's all volunteer, or are there any full-time staff?
In our club, we have 2 paid members. That would be the secretary and the accountant.
Got it. Okay.
Treasure.
Treasurer. Thank you.
Yep.
Robbie. Tight purse strings. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions about Kiwanis? We meet Tuesdays from noon to 1, and I encourage any of you to come and become a member. We're fun.
Well, I was a little disappointed there wasn't buckwheat pancakes
Oh.
Saturday, but
And that's a stab
that's a supply
because,
chain issue is what I was told, so.
yeah,
we'll take
and that's
it
a
through.
stab in my heart because I'm the batter general. I'm the batter general and I run the batter, and no, we didn't have buckwheat. Sorry.
That's the first time I volunteered for that event, and it's a well-oiled machine, and it's pretty amazing. After doing it all these years, get the leadership, and you're going to work here and you're going to work there, and they know what they're doing. But it's a fun event, and so I hope Kiwanis raise some good money for that.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Typically we raise around $50,000 to $60,000. We know we probably could raise more by doing other things, but again, we really value all those people coming together, the amount of people working together, and you see people that you haven't seen for so long, and you meet new people. There's just so much value to so many people under one roof. So thank you. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and more to come.
Yes.
And apparently buckwheat next year, right?
Yeah. Bring pancakes when you come back.
All right. The next next item on the agenda is the consideration for the administration to pursue the sale of the depot. We have Mr. Brock Leitz presenting.
All right, thank you, commissioners. And as you may recall, we did present at the Facilities Committee meeting in January, starting the process and the conversation about potentially selling the depot property, which we are sitting in right now. Understanding, of course, that this facility has a great deal of historic significance, and there were some questions that were raised by the commissioners that we needed to do some additional homework on. We have some history here that we've spelled out for you. As you may recall, the depot was placed on the National Historic Registry in 1975, so it is listed as on the National Historic Registry. We did, as a park district, secure an easement from Burlington Northern back in 2005. And as we've researched the significance of that easement, that is able to be the successor of an ownership can take over that easement as we proceed with the sale. So certainly I think we've got the ability on that behalf to do that. One of the things we talked a great deal about was the Depot Plaza dedication program. As you recall, there's many pieces around the Depot Plaza that have been dedicated or private funds given to, et cetera. There was a great effort that took place and a renovation that started back in 1983. At that time, there was a board that was known as Friends of the Depot, and they established an endowment, which is in place today still at the FM Area Foundation. However, the Friends of the Depot board is no longer active. And so as the owners and the elected officials here at the park board, you as our commissioners really administer and oversee that endowment and those funds. There's an annual distribution that also by your action could be turned over and taken over by any new ownership that would come into play. One of the questions that came up in Commissioner Morgan visiting with a historian and gentleman from NDSU was that although the depot is listed on the National Registry, it is not listed on the State Historical Society Registry. And so we needed to do some additional work on, maybe there are some restrictions that are in place, even though it's not listed there. So I, since the meeting, I have had conversations with the State Historical Society, their lead historian, and she gave me really procedurally what would need to happen as a political subdivision to be able to proceed in this manner. There are really two pieces. One is if we are in a situation where we were looking to demolish, renovate, or significantly alter the historic nature of the facility, we would need their permission to do so, their board's permission actually to do so as a political subdivision. The second piece, which is really our intent, is that if we are looking to sell the facility, we would still need the permission of, at a minimum, the director of the State Historical Society and his consultation with the board. And so procedurally, what we have been asked to do is to write a letter to Bill Peterson, the director of the State Historical Society, really a letter of intent. And I have drafted a letter that I've shared with Susan, and we would be prepared, if we get authorization from you to proceed with the process, to send that to the State Historical Society. They would review it and provide any guidance. In this case, because it is a sale and we're not looking to do anything to alter the facility, we would then need to work with potential buyers for the building to make sure they understood the historical significance. I have pointed out to the State Historical Society that we certainly, as a political subdivision, publicly funded organization, understand and have the public good at heart and know the historic significance of this facility and want that preserved as much as possible. And so they would give us guidance, provided they would give us the permission to proceed with selling. They would also give us guidance of things that we would work with potential buyers on. I did visit with Jeff Gunkelman about this briefly, and we would simply, in trying to sell the property or market the property, make sure that there was a clear understanding of what that's historical significance is. The piece that, although it's not listed on the state registry, that impacts us is anytime there is, and they use the words historical significance, and what they're saying is if it's on the National Registry, it clearly has historic significance. The fact that it's not listed by the state doesn't change the history of the facility. So with that, what we would be asking you to do tonight is to grant us the authority to start marketing the facility and proceed with the process of a sale. And part of that process is continuing this effort with the State Historical Society to make sure that we've got all of those particulars in place as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have or that may have arose since we've discussed this last.
So with, if we were to sell it to a private entity, you're saying that the State Historical Society would still be involved in that potentially with what the buyer could do or could not do, or how they would have to go through that process?
Yeah, Commissioner Hill, it is my understanding that they would continue to have a role with a new owner. I think that's what we would learn when we provide our letter of intent. They would then provide us the advice on, okay, we would theoretically, we would authorize you to sell it, and here are the provisions that you need to make sure you keep in mind while you're doing that. And then we, in working with Jeff, we would then put as part of our expectations in listing it that, all right, here are the things that need to make sure that they're in place. They would tell us that in response to our letter of intent, what those items are that we would have to consider.
Okay, interesting.
Well, I don't have a question so much, but if we go back to the near term history, you know, we, as the board, the collective, we determined way back before we even had a twinkling in the eye of the sports complex that, you know, if we proceeded with the development of the sports center, that we would, as part of it, market this building and sell it to help offset the costs. And so, you know, obviously the board composition is different now than it was back then, but, you know, there's a cascade of events that had started, then that brings us to this point. So, you know, we're in the position now where we need to take the next step to continue that process. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
So we said we're approving, we're basically sending a letter to the State Historical Society with, in writing, with our intent to sell it. And so we're not technically putting it on the market yet. We're not approving sale price or asking price or.
Correct.
Okay.
The way the sample motion would be is that you're really authorizing us to start the process of actively marketing the property for sale. Part of that process, as the lead historian told me, is part of that process is working with us, the Historical Society, to work through those items to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So
Kind of step
you're really
one.
authorizing the process to get started, which includes the continued effort and getting permission from the State Historical Society.
Makes sense.
So on the sample motion, am I reading it correctly that you won't come back to the board until you have purchase agreements, like somebody's made an offer and then we'll look at it, and or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, no, I think that certainly is at a minimum when we would come back. I suspect we will continue to keep you updated on what is the response from the State Historical Society. You know, procedurally,
Right.
what does that look like? Do we do a bid process and set a minimum price? Do we do other things? I mean, I think the process of selling, we would bring back to you and keep you informed, but at a bare minimum, we would market it. We'd make sure that we've done the work with the Historical Society, and, you know, who knows what happens between now and coming back if somebody reaches out to us and expresses interest in the facility, and then we'd work through that process.
Yeah, that was kind of my question too, was what exactly are we approving now? But I think that makes sense. Yeah, because traditionally in property, you kind of put out like an asking price or a listing price,
Mhm.
right? And I don't think we're just saying, all right, we're marketing that we are going to put it up for sale. We're working with the State Historical Society.
Well, as far as the mechanics of how you do this, I'm fully in favor of staff deciding, you know, how we're going to market it, how we're going to do it. We got to stay within the procurement rules and legal and all that other stuff. But, and as long as you're coming back to us and giving us updates until we get to a point in time where we're gonna approve a bid or whatever, you know, that's fine. I'm good with that.
I would agree.
All right. Do
So
we have a
I'll make the motion here since I can read it and Vicky can't. I move to authorize administration to actively market the depot for sale and present purchase agreements to the board for consideration.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jeff, please poll the three of us.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye. All right, motion carries.
Good work, Brock.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks for all the homework. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing with all the historical society and making sure that we're following what we're supposed to follow. And as we've talked about, for future buyers to know, well, what can I do? What can't I do? All right, on that note, anything else for the good of the order? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye, everybody.